So I'm Seth Labenz. I'm here because I'm a graphic designer, book publisher, but also relevant, I'm also husband to Molly Engel in the back, and I'm woo! But I'm also, you know, as Malik said, I'm a father to two young boys, oldest named Willem, and the youngest is named Angus. But I'm also a son, I'm a son-in-law, and I'm a brother. Why all that's important, I'll get to in a second. But Creative Mornings, the first Creative Mornings I ever went to was in June of 2010 in New York City. That was headlined by Paola Antonelli, who's the director of the Design and Architecture Galleries at MoMA. And what I remember from that talk is Paola describing how they just acquired the @ symbol for the permanent collection. Super interesting. What's awesome for me is to be on the same stage in a different city showing you guys pictures of my kids from my permanent collection. So I want to thank Creative Mornings Miami, Malik, obviously, Catalina, who I met in this process, Amanda, who I've known about, for a while, knowing she's volunteering and working for Creative Mornings, Lemon City Tea, and Gramps for hosting us. Reality. So when I got the email that this would be the series theme for my talk, I thought to myself, how could I approach this? Could I talk about the reality of the business of graphic design, which is a mystery to pretty much everybody outside of design? I thought I could talk about the idea that a lot of design work is killed, or things that get proposed don't see the light of day, or they call it being killed. I thought I could just show all killed work. Thirdly, I thought I could talk about the aspiration of graphic design and how often reality grounds projects, and what you hope to make doesn't actually come to be. But I thought, those would all be nice talks, but they didn't talk about, a true reality, and a true reality for me is to show you guys everything. So what I mean by that is it's not just a work day, it's when you run a graphic design studio or you're a creative director of a publishing house and you're a dad and a homeowner and all of this stuff, it's one long continuous hamster wheel, and everything is influencing each other. Visual influences throughout the day, watching TV with my son, those things influence the kinds of work that I'm making. So essentially this approach to reality is my own reality show. The cast is any number of people. The day that I'm showing includes all of these people. So it's me talking to these people on the phone, in person, on Skype, on the street, what have you. And my crew of the show starts with TWAAS Graphics. So TWAAS is a design studio that I co-founded in 2005 in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I co-founded it with this guy, Roy Rubb. Roy is my longest and closest friend. We've been through everything together, but he's tolerated many things from me, one of which is making him don this pink jacket on Orchard Street last summer and forcing a stranger to take our picture because it matched our new rebrand identity color. We hired this gentleman, Brian Anderson, in October of last year. Brian came to us from SVA in New York. He cut his teeth at the Jewish Museum for 2 years, and then we hired him outright. And I can say very positively that Brian is one of the most impressive humans I have in my life. He has made the work of the studio so much better, and we've laughed so much more than we did the 10 years prior to him being there. Sounds like Oh, okay. So just as a topos note, this is the most visible thing we've ever done. One can't go to a bodega in the world without seeing this next to the cash register. We did the basic redesign of the Kind Plus line, and in so doing, we gave a facelift to the Kind Fruit and Nut anchor brand that Kind started with. You guys recognize those? So, Highlight Books. Highlight, as many of you know, is a Miami publishing imprint whose mission is to foster a literary identity of Miami. Highlight's made up of so it's either me or the clicker. These fine people. So this was, you might recognize a lot of faces. These are two authors. That's Frank Baez and Dave Landsberger, who we published last year. In 2014, I'm sorry. But this is Melody Santiago Cummings, who everybody, if you don't know, you should know. She's one of the most amazing people in Miami. Amanda Finuccio, yours truly, Michael Martin, Jose Portela, Christina Frigo, and this gentleman, P. Scott Cunningham. Two people not seen here are Carolina Dominguez and Kitty Sangani, who joined the team after this picture was taken. This is the most visible thing we've ever published. Forager, a subjective guide to Miami's edible plants. Tiffany Noe and George Echeverria. Texts on the inside were written by the poet Nick Vagnoni, another awesome Miami human. These are interior spreads, cover stack, and let the day begin. Lots and lots of coffee. That's Angus. Willem's still asleep. That's his dog, Big D. Shower. MOUSC. So we have to watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse every morning and have waffles. That's Willem, packed in the car. Angus to the other side. Molly takes the kids to work. So I pick the kids up from school. Or Molly doesn't take the kids to work. Molly takes the kids to school. I pick them up. So I'm in the car by myself for the only time in the day of solo time. So as I'm pulling away, I, without fail, think of how crappy my grass looks. And it's patchy and diseased and brown. And I think to myself, there's a client of ours, like the director is on my shoulder, Edwina Van Gaal, and she's telling me, you can't put fertilizer on your lawn because the Perfect Earth Project is a toxin-free land management company. This is the logo/mascot we did for Perfect Earth Project. So my lawn will forever look like crap. I'm going down Biscayne Boulevard toward the Young Arts Building. This is the sign outside Don Bailey Flooring. It's meant to be an advertising for Don Bailey, but its most beautiful moments are when it's in glitch mode. So this is me listening to a podcast.
Turns into a symbol of poverty and rundown cities.
Neon is also hard to maintain, and a broken neon sign is a bright, flashing sign of brokenness.
So it's my solo time. So it's me thinking and listening to a podcast that Melody sent me about the history of neon in Oakland, California. In the background visual is something that appeared the night before at the IAC building in New York City at the Tate Americas Foundation benefit. It constituted a bunch of optical patterning with overlay of artists' works at their triennial artist dinner. And the crazy thing about this piece was that it was the physically the biggest thing we've ever made, because it was a 10-foot screen by 120 feet screen. So it was basically 5 seamless things. Text from Molly. Another text from Mom. And I stop the car at the Hope Church of the Nazarene and get out and take a picture of this. This is some local Miami sign painter who really knows what they're doing, and I want to find out their name because we might ask them to do the lettering for a book that we're working on for Highlight. Back in the car, I arrive at the Young Arts Building. So, Highlight Books headquarters, Miami headquarters. The permanent fixtures there are myself, Melody Santiago Cummings, and P. Scott Cunningham. We are not in the landmarked Mosaic building that everybody knows, or the Jewel Box, but we're in a nondescript two-story office building that has lots of quirks. So fluorescent lighting, bench shelves. This is a remnant of some Bacardi party. That's not from us. I unpacked my bag, which is the 2016 Miami Festival tote. It's a poem or a line of poetry by Cherry Pickman, and I designed it to, seem as if it's underwater. And truth be told, the flood is coming. This is the mascot of the office, this Highlight trophy figure, which subsequently was the 2014 holiday party present. My songs, it's a poem by Pindar. My songs, lords of the lyre, which of the gods, what hero, what mortal shall we celebrate? It's a kind of nice metaphor of publishing. So I get to my desk, and it's a symphony of sending email, receiving email, one of which is a proposal for an invitation to an art show in California at a venue called Stonescape. The show, or the curatorial event for this, is called Convergence. So the idea is that the sleeve and the invitation card interact, but really that says Convergence, but only when activated by the other lines. So the email, process is not only, little bits of what's this cost, can we do this paper, but it's also big proposals. Coffee break. Going to La Provence up the street. If anybody's ever been there, it is, the least bit French one can imagine. I'm often referred to this way by the guy there because I wear black T-shirts all the time. I was there with Brian in the fall, and this is how we were referred to.
Seth, it's Bob. I need to talk to you about the Rio Cortez quote.
That's
give me a call.
That's Bob Garfield, one of the handful of print brokers that we work with. A print broker is as it sounds. It's someone that helps you figure out where something should print based on your expectations for a job. And I'm instantly into the familiar sound of a Skype call. And I get on the horn with Roy, who's in his apartment before he goes to the museum. And Roy and I are mainly outlining the day, but we're talking about a pitch that we have at 2 o'clock for an exhibition design at the Jewish Museum. I quickly get on Skype again with Roy, who's in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. This is our office, representing the Highlight Books promo T-shirt. And Brian is showing me the recent draft of the Night Arts Challenge, Instagram, clickbait. And this is part of some 150 ads that we did this year for the Night Arts Challenge ad buy. So if you saw anything in online or print, it went through that New York office or my office in Miami. Or actually, there's a third someone, Chase Simmering, is in the audience. Also helped us out with this. Get back with Brian, outlining the day, hang up. There's a guy, there's a homeless person on Greenpoint Ave who swears Brian looks just like Ted Nugent. All right, it's nearing 10:20, and this gentleman arrives at the office. If you didn't already know, Scott is from Boca. So Scott and I are, we're catching up. But we're talking about specifically in this moment about the Miami film leader that we are adding to, as sort of a, the prefix to Miami documentary videos. So in this case, we are adding the soundtrack of Mario Cruz's Poem-O-Matic machine. And Mario, the Poem-O-Matic was basically this beautiful little box handmade for this past festival that would, at the touch of a button, print you a poem on receipt paper. You could program it to have so many different poems, but the most beautiful thing to me in seeing that was it's on receipt paper, so it's burned in, so over time it fades. So what is fully black one day is invisible the next, so it's just, this fleeting thing. So I'm back in the car because I'm on my way to a press check.
Hi, Seth, it's Bob. I want to discuss the shipping with you because it's like $400 now. I don't know if you're prepared for that.
Text from Alejandro de Onís, the Director of Digital Strategy and Design at Knight Foundation. He wants to meet to talk about Knight Cities Challenge. I find out later.
Dude, to just catch up on the film briefly, hopefully it's okay. And please do give me a buzz whenever you're available. I was planning on leaving this message and talking about how I was doing a bunch about myself, but I'm me and sad, all of those things that you don't need. Call me.
So that's Nathaniel Sandler, Director of Bookleggers Library. This is the logo that we made and released last year. It's both a book and a bee. These are business cards that we made that are designed after a Dewey Decimal System library card. Back in the car, arrive at Original Impressions for this press check, and I'm there to see the printing, and I'm there to approve the interior printing of a book called My First Bikini. So this, and it's published by Highlight Books. It's by a Spanish author named Elena Medel. We translated it to English, and these are the sights and sounds of the press check. Maybe. All right, maybe not. Well, regardless of the check, this is the result of the printing, but it's a foil stamped cover on a kind of pinkish paper, which is kind of burned out. Back in the car, Melody texts me about lunch, asked me how the press check went. Molly texted me an image of her lunch. Roy asked me what's on the list. It's acronym land. He wonders if I'm going to get back for this pitch meeting at 2. So I'm back for the pitch meeting. And the pitch is to present the design, exhibition design for something that's happening in September for an exhibition called Take Me, I'm Yours, which is, originally it was done in Paris by Hans Ulrich Oberst, and it's a reinstallation in New York. So with it being a reinstallation, it's doing a redesign. So we're presenting everything from, this is Jens, that's Kelly Taxter, the assistant curator, and that's Roy. But we're presenting the title wall, we're presenting fonts, colors, wall text sample, gallery guide furniture, the dispenser, and the exhibition publication, which this is our proposal for Take Me, I'm Yours. It's a riff off of a Chinese takeout box, but it's also an unconventional way of making a book, not a book. So it's a container, but inside are loose sheets, or it's 40 separate postcards of the artist's works represented in the show. While I'm talking, I get this alert. So, lunchtime. La Latina. So as I'm eating lunch at my desk, I'm reviewing email, and I receive this, which is an intern request from a guy in Germany, which, by the way, is the most beautiful CV I've ever seen, you know. But it's a humbling thing when these things come into one's inbox of someone who wants to work with you or, you know, learn from what you're doing. We get these a lot, and it's an amazing feeling. In the same string of emails, I get a request to do the Human Rights Watch Film Festival poster, which is in the form of an MTA subway poster. This is last year's. It's promoting a film, a documentary about the Black Panthers. The Human Rights Watch tagline is "Change Starts Here." And this year we'll be doing, just got approved this week actually, but the film is called Ovarian Psychos. Text from Molly, who's in retail buying, so she sees these weird samples. And this one's called Vanilla Ice. My dad texted me and asked me how business is. My dad is retired now, but he was the president of Columbus Bank and Trust in the town I grew up in called Columbus, Nebraska. 20,000 people. But the first major identity job that we did was redesigning Columbus Bank and Trust. So this is Michelle McMillan, VP at the Outer Branch. We made name with a face graphics. So every officer got their portrait painted, and you know, we selected the typefaces, the palette, etc. This is the lobby pencil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Come work with me. This is the lobby eraser that goes with the pencil. Surprise visit from poet and O Miami stalwart Zain Aslam. So it's almost 5 o'clock, which means I need to go pick up Willem from school. Willem gets a report card every day, and in this particular day, work was particularly gray. Selfie to mom. So the school parking lot shares with a grocery store. We go in to get snacks for the ride home, and I'm excited because I get this thank you bag, and I'm pumped because I don't have this one. And what I mean by that is I collect thank you bags. So each of these, though similar in theme, for instance, all these are smiley faces, all these are flowers, all these say thank you, thank you, thank you in some iteration. They're all different type compositions, different fonts, which I find fascinating. Back in the car. I passed Gallery Diet, the new building on Northwest 2nd, and I text Nina Johnson-Malusky about the Instagram promo that we made for the upcoming show with Emmett Moore. And this is the promo. Opening was last night, actually. If you didn't see it last night, be sure to go. I'm sure it's amazing. So we get to school, or get to daycare, pick up Angus. Angus, by the way, is not named after Angus Young of AC/DC. So 84th Street, Northeast 2nd, stoplight, picture, instant, almost matching yellows. So we get home, Willem runs around, we watch the Bee movie, The protagonist is the voice of Jerry Seinfeld. And the gist of it is, if we didn't have bees, we wouldn't have pollination, we wouldn't have plants, and we'd all starve to death. So it reminds me of when Roy saved a bee in the Brooklyn studio. It's this like fancy technique of a glass with a piece of paper. Everybody knows that, right? I didn't know it at the time. So Angus has formula for dinner. It's this PMS color. And Willem can't eat anything without ketchup. It's almost 7. Mom gets home. Everybody gets naked. Bath time. Instagram like. This is underneath is a poster we designed for the Isaac Mizrahi show at the Jewish Museum. And someone sent us this poster that went up on top of it and had been subsequently torn. I think this is so cool. So it's 8 o'clock, which means it's Will's bedtime. We read Go to Sleep, Little Farm, which is by the illustrator Christopher Silas Neal. And subsequently, it was drawn at this desk, which is 2 desks from ours at the pencil factory in Brooklyn, which is special to me because when you're looking at something and you know where it was made, it becomes like this, much more meaningful thing. Prepping dinner. I get a picture from my mother-in-law, Susan. This is sunset in Atlanta. I think it's beautiful because the tree line looks like it's on fire. I'm grilling out, so I grabbed some Highlight Books matches. Burgers. Dishes. I set up for a picture outside. This is the street we live on and our driveway. And this is the king tide. It has not rained. And there are at least 13 inches of water in the street. So if anything in my talk has been real, this is the most real thing we could talk about. Almost time for bed. We catch the latter part of the Vanderpump Rules reunion. Sending and receiving email. Check on the kids. Molly on Instagram. And that's it. That's a full day in the life of Seth Labenz.
Thank you, Seth, and we'll open it up for Q&A. Your brave soul.
I noticed you take a lot of pictures of things going on around. How important do you think visual stimuli is to coming up with things creatively?
The most important thing in my creative process. The advent of the iPhone. I mean, in one of the promos, it's something like 63,000 plus photos. It's a diaristic device, So the almost yellows thing on the street, that could influence the color palette for an identity project, or the kind of like serendipity of something, or Zane showing up in the office and realizing that somebody made a pizza float. That's like inspiration, that you can make anything. You can make a float out of anything. But I later go back through my iPhone iPicture library and not only reminisce family pictures, but looking for inspiration as like a life well lived, well seen.
How many pictures in your photos on the iPhone?
Oh,
Right now.
I have no idea.
Well,
But my phone's almost full, if that's what you mean. I constantly have to wake up and delete stuff to make space, because I'm like a hoarder that way. I don't want to delete anything because I want it at my fingertips. Yeah.
So what's the future plan? Since you now have an office in Miami and Brooklyn, is there more growth potential? And are you going to be hiring some of those folks, sending their resumes for internships?
I mean, the plan is I'm a Miamian. We put down roots. We started a family. I engaged with the creative community. A lot of people in the room are friends and people I work with. So I'm not going anywhere, and my New York guys aren't going anywhere. So we managed to do this 2 cities, 1 office thing successfully, which I feel fortunate about. In terms of getting big or hiring more people, it was new for us to hire Brian, and I was nervous about, taking on more work or et cetera, and it has worked out swimmingly. But at the same token, the more people you add, the less you get to touch things. And working for 10 years and being involved in every phase of every part of the process is a hard habit to break. So, I mean, that's about business growth, and that's probably what we should do, but it will be kicking and screaming to do so.
Do you ever feel compromised by clients that just don't get your vision? And do you pull back, or do you stay around with what you see is needed?
It depends. If they're always right. But it's a matter of, I think it's taken experience to learn that it's not about me. It's about this sort of dialogue with the client. And if it doesn't, it won't ultimately work if it doesn't work for them and me. So it takes more work to do that and more patience, but I'm not one to, jam my agenda or have a big ego, and if that's tarnished, then to walk away. I get much more satisfaction when both parties are satisfied.
2 more,
Amanda.
What is the worst advice you have ever been given since starting your business?
Oh, wow. I've gotten a lot of good advice.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yeah.
The worst thing anyone's ever told you that you looked at that guy and was like, that's wrong.
It's good and bad. But we were told to pitch one idea. And that often leads to miscommunication of it's more about us than it is about them. And I think that the lesson from that is if a client has choices, you have to be happy with each of those choices, but they feel like they get to choose and be part of the process. Because if it's only one thing, it's just, hey, take it or leave it, and they don't get to contribute, So I guess that was bad advice at first. And yeah, frankly, we started the studio in 2005 out of school. I never worked for anybody. I worked for the Cooper Union Design Department for 1 day and quit, which was not a reflection of the design department, but was more about me just wanting control, and it was very, very stupid. So my good advice to anybody starting would be go learn from others first, so you don't fail for 5 years and eat macaroni and cheese and work out of your kitchen, your apartment in the East Village. Anybody else? Michael Martin.
Can you talk about how books have begun to play a role in your design? How that differs from creating identities or other kinds of content?
Book stuff? Same thing to me. I approach each of the book projects at Highlight as I would an identity project. So it's kind of asking the questions of what solves the identity of what the author's work is about, or what we're trying to say to the audience. So my cover process about making different comps with different sensibilities, as some of you in the room know, is the same process that I would do for a logo, for an identity. And it's the same attention to detail with the paper. We didn't see the video, which is a bit of a shame, but there's a complete process of how a book gets made that my hands are on. It's attending the press check, it's touching the paper. It's communicating first with the print broker. A cover could print somewhere. The interior could print somewhere else. It could be bound in a separate place, doing all of the budget of that. It's the same number of variables as in an identity project. And it's not that way for book publishing at large, but I think that's specific to Highlight and our success, because we are giving such attention to detail and promoting the book after it's been made in such a way that I think is unique to what we're doing in Miami. You know.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, everyone.
So, as you know, Creative Mornings is a completely volunteer organization. And so we just like to thank the people who made today super possible. One is Pascal. He's easy to recognize. He's the guy with all the the other, and there's a running joke that the only person who doesn't have a photograph on the Creative Mornings site is our photographer, Catalina. And as usual, just want to thank her for doing the photography, but also because as like one of the co-founders, she's always one of the first people to like figure something out on the fly. Like I'm sure she's at a photo shoot or she's just dealing with life in general. And then I'll text her and be like, hey, by the way, it's a week from now and we don't really have a location picked out. And she'll be like, cool. And she'll text that gentleman over here who's hiding behind the sort of, he's peeking over, his head is peeking out right now. His name's Adam. He is the founder of this great place. And Adam was like, yeah, we can do it. Like that was the response. He was like, no, seriously, we're bringing 75 people, 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, it's all good. And so I'd like to thank Catalina and Adam specifically for this event, because it's a lot of sort of stress putting these things together continuously. And we've got like, let's say, August planned, believe it or not, and then there's like this little gap where we'll miss it, and Catalina always steps up and steps in, and Adam just stepped up in a big way. And this is like a dream come true, because we love grants, but we've just never been here in the daytime. What is it like? What is it like in the day? It's kind of like a little bit of like true Miami original Linwood paradise. So thanks, Adam. We have our Lemon City Tea. One of them just gave birth this week, and the other is out running the business. But these young ladies started an amazing tea company, and we want to support them, and they've agreed to partner with us for a full year. And so we always like to just thank our collective creative community. And last, but obviously not least, is Seth. As you can see from his talk, right, he talked about basically everyone in this room that he's ever touched during here, right? So he talked about the troublemaker in the corner with the mustache.
Touch me, bro. You didn't touch me.
The voicemail, that was the Daniel Sandler book. Like he talked about Scott of Miami. He talked about Melody, who's like, you know, the secret queen behind all of this, and we all worship her. But the truth is, he's a pure reflection of what's great about Miami, right? He's the reason that a lot of these things come together. He's a representation of that. Like people like Ashley who does infraculture. There's Miami Braille, right, and Gallery Diet, and all these amazing projects we have going on. And I liked him for this month, especially at the Miami, when we're coming off of such a high, to remind us that like we're this awesome sort of all the time. And I just want to thank Seth for putting together one of the best presentations like I've seen anywhere in Creative Mornings. And for being a part of the community.
Thanks, man.
We're just gonna make a flip.
Yeah,
we
just
have nothing but like him dancing. We just have nothing but photos of you for any occasion, for every meeting possible. And so we're just gonna say goodbye to everyone. And next month we're gonna have a director, Carmen. She's gonna speak at Miami. Another cultural Green said, Cinema, not Miami. I know that happens all the time. Cinema. Another great event in a couple of weeks in June 17th. So everyone have a good day.
Thanks, man. Thanks.